Hey y'all, welcome back to this week's episode of AMA Friday with Amy Miller, recruiting in yoga pants. Y'all, it's only the second week of January. I'm gonna need you to pace yourselves. we had some big mad folks over on social media lately, and nothing enrages the random strangers of the internet more than a recruiter sharing their actual lived professional experience. Very frustrating, isn't it? Okay, so I'm going to dig into this a little bit. I have a method to my madness here on this topic. I want to talk about ROI. I want to talk about return on your investment as a job seeker and how to figure out which activities, which job search strategies are going to work best for you. So I'm going to actually start from the recruiting point of view, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how I look at ROI, in particular when we're talking about source of hire. So it is not a secret, I have shared this a lot, that for me in the last few years, direct applicants have shockingly been my biggest source of hire. This is especially interesting when you factor in that in the early days, we could not talk about the project we were on. We could not name names. Like it was very tricky. There was a lot of like, shh, don't say that out loud. So even working for a well-known company, there's sometimes still in the early days, constraints around what you can share and how you can get people excited about your roles. So I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud that we were still, even within that environment, able to create enough buzz and excitement that people were drawn to us. I just pat myself on the back. Okay. Second biggest source of hire is our sourced candidates. So these are where we have gone out to find people. We have taken that search criteria, that hiring manager's wish list, we've turned it into a Boolean string or to a search effort, and we've gone out and convinced you to talk to us. That is my second biggest source of hire. And now, what do you think is third? I'm only counting the top three. I mean, there's other weird inputs we could get into, but we'll maybe another time. All right, third, referrals. And this one is so interesting because somehow the experts, the internet experts, will try to convince you that applying online never works and you shouldn't do it and it's the lowest possible return on your investment, blah, 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 and you just got to network. That's the key. There's two problems with that. First of all, that really does fly in the face of my and many other recruiters' biggest source of hire, applicants. And secondly, network. What does that even mean? I mean, they don't actually tell you how to do that. So I'm going to package up all of my networking stuff. I'm going to put it in the video description. I will link to the playlist as well, but I will include those links down below so that you can sprinkle that all over the internet like common sense confetti. Share it with your friends. Okay, but let's get back to ROI real quick. So I want to talk about the recruiter ROI, and then we'll dig into what does that mean for you in your job search. So one of the reasons that I track source of hire so closely is because I want to know what's working. I want to know, where should we spend our time? Where should we spend our money? Where do we need to maybe see improvements? And I'll give you a real world example. Okay, this is several years ago, different company, a couple companies ago, but we were we were checking our applicants, right? We got a lot of applicants, not always qualified, but a lot of applicant flow. Our sources were working really hard, trying to turn over every rock, getting lots of declines, lots of people saying no, they weren't interested, didn't want to relocate, whatever. And we had a very small number of referrals. People were just not sending their friends for whatever reason. And so we made a decision, like we did all this math and we looked at all these inputs and figured out, where our gaps were. And we actually decided to increase the referral bonus for a period of time for a very specific job family. It was actually around machine learning. It was a very specific machine learning hiring initiative that we were responsible for. And so we would do pizza parties. We would have, get all the engineers in a room and open up your LinkedIn and let's start seeing who do we know, who do we want to send messages to, who do we want to try to engage with. So we worked really hard to increase our referral pipeline because that was our biggest gap. Again, we were trying to keep things afloat with the applicants and the source candidates, but that wasn't delivering as much as we needed. And we felt like we could get faster ROI by investing more in referrals. So we did it. There was unfortunately some bad behavior, which I talked about in my employee referrals video from a couple of years ago, if you're curious about that story. But it worked for the most part. So that was a good outcome from tracking that data. Okay, so what does this mean for you as the job seeker? A very common pushback, which I totally get, but a common pushback from me or other recruiters saying, we're hiring mostly applicants around here, not sure why you think you shouldn't apply, is that, well, I've applied to 100 roles and never got a response. I believe you. If you say that is your lived personal experience, I believe you. I want you to know that. I'm not going to call you a liar. I'm not going to say you're wrong. You're not telling the truth. Now, there are people who are very quick to say that to me, oddly enough. When I explain my lived professional experience, then all of a sudden Amy's full of shit, doesn't know what she's talking about. So please don't strain anything jumping to that conclusion. Okay, I don't want to be responsible for your medical bills. Okay, just have a seat before you hurt yourself. Anyway, if you tell me that's your experience, I believe you. All kidding aside, I get it. Here's the question that I'm going to ask you. How's the quality of your applications? How's the quality of your resume? Is it targeted to the role you want? Are you being very, just very intentional in your research and picking the companies you want to apply to, picking the roles that you want to apply to, tailoring that resume to the specifics? Because if you're not going to take that time up front to kind of really perfect your input, then you're right. Applying online is the dumbest idea for you. Just a fact, okay? Because here's the other reality from a data perspective. I don't get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of applications. I know people think I do. Everybody gets 10,000 applications. No, we don't. Shut up. The things people say on the internet and just allow themselves to look so foolish never ceases to amaze me. Anyway, that's another story. But here's what I know. On average, so this is kind of anecdotal, just general. I haven't pulled a spreadsheet to do all this math, but I have a pretty good sense this is what it is. Anywhere consistently from about 10 to 20% of direct applicants actually meet the basic qualifications. So let's pretend I got 100 applications. All right, maybe I did. Maybe there's a role that's been out there for a few weeks and I did get 100 applications. 20 of them went to the hiring manager. So is your competition all 100 people who applied? No. If you're one of the people who actually targeted the resume and made sure that it was very easy for me or whoever the recruiter is to see, oh yeah, basic qualifications are this, resume says that, they go together. You're one of the 20% that made it through. Made it through me, not the ATS. Right? So that's number one. First of all, if you are being very methodical and intentional with your applications, that right there is going to put you in the top tier of applicants, right? You're going to be in that percentage that actually gets moved forward to a hiring authority. Secondly, you can supplement this activity with the networking, with the, asking for referrals, with structuring your profile in a way that it causes recruiters to come to you. These are all three very important legs of the job search stool. You want to have solid applications out there, companies you're targeting, roles you're fit for. You want to have a profile that's going to attract recruiters and hiring managers who are looking for someone like you. You want to have those trusted friends and families members and former colleagues, former bosses advocating for you in those companies. You want to do it all. And here's how you're going to determine the ROI for you. You're going to write it down. All right? You can use a sticky note. You could use a spreadsheet. There's tools available on the market that help you, track some of these things. I think my friend Dave over at Teal has something to support this effort. And you want to track those job search efforts, because you know what? You cannot improve what you are unwilling to measure. And say that again. You cannot improve what you are unwilling to measure. You're going to have a hard time losing weight if you're not tracking your calories, your food intake, your exercise. Like, I'm not saying you have to go count macros or anything, but you want to be aware, right? Like, am I eating enough vegetables? Am I eating proper serving sizes? Maybe it's that simple. Am I moving enough? Right? My Apple Watch will tell me if I'm not. So that act of measuring my output, measuring my activity, measuring my decisions helps me understand what is giving me the result that I want. So if I'm in job search mode and the result I want is 5 interviews next week, I need to be able to do the backwards math. Like, okay, if I want 5 interviews, I'm probably going to have to apply to at least 10 roles. I'm probably going to need at least 3 colleagues to recommend me to their companies. I'm probably going to try to get at least 2 or 3 recruiters to reach out to me via, my profile or my website or whatever it is. So you have to kind of do that backwards math. And you're not going to have all the data at the beginning. You have to start collecting that data, but start writing these things down. Write down the companies you applied to, track the dates, track the rec IDs, track the recruiters who contact you, track the referrals that have been promised. And once you have a good set of data, you can now start peeling back the layers of what worked. And the results are probably going to surprise you. You may be someone who benefits greatly from being found. Maybe you're in a very, high, employee-driven, candidate-driven market, right? Maybe you're like a really super special kind of engineer that everybody wants to hire. You're going to get the best bang for your buck just being found. Maybe you're, highly qualified in your field. You're probably going to get better results applying directly because you are nailing all the aspects of the job description and you're proactively saying, hey, pick me. Maybe you've got really deep network. You know a million people and they all think you're great. This would not be me, but maybe it is you. You're probably going to benefit from referrals. So it's going to be different for every one of us, and we need to be okay with that. We need to actually just shut up and let people have their experience and learn from what they're actually doing and what's working for them, and let their ROI be what it is. I don't get to tell you, you must apply. You don't get to tell me that my biggest source of hire isn't what it is. All right? Just so we're clear, okay? You have your facts, I have mine. Both things can be true. That's okay. You don't need to get mad about it. But what I do want you to do, if you are an active job seeker, is start tracking. Data, data, data is key. That is how we affect change. That is how we improve things. And that is how ultimately we get where we're trying to go. All right, y'all, kind of a long one this week. Hopefully that gave you some food for thought. I will link below to those networking resources that I mentioned. So the playlist, the blog, the templates, please use them in good health. Please share them if you are so inclined. No mailing list, no strings attached, just trying to help. And we will see you next week.